Now, one of the mistakes that creators are making with their thumbnails right now, might even be something that you're doing, is putting all your time and effort into the thumbnail, but not actually thinking about how the thumbnail is gonna play with the title to really convey the idea and how it all works together to show that this is a video that's targeted specifically for a viewer that wants to watch this content.
Basically, what you want is something that either adds to the title or plays off of the title, makes people who are viewing that thumbnail ask a question in their mind that they just can't not click to get the answer to. Just creates a loop or creates some sort of interest that makes it just impossible to not click on it. I mean, the point of the thumbnail is to get people to click on the video.
Now, this is David Altizer. He's been the host of multiple YouTube channels, and now he's working as a thumbnail designer for some of the biggest creators like Curtis Connor and Max Fosh. And the videos that he's been working on have been reaching millions of viewers, and these videos have gotten to the top of the trending page. So I decided to jump on a call with David and have a conversation about 12 of the biggest mistakes that creators are making with their thumbnail design right now. So how do you go from making videos about cameras to hosting one of the biggest filmmaking channels on the platform to now making thumbnails for the biggest creators on the platform?
I don't know, Jeven. I don't know how I ended up here, but it's been a wild ride. I've been a full-time thumbnail artist coming from being a creator for so long, and I've really enjoyed the whole journey.
So why are thumbnails so important in the whole process of uploading a video? I feel like there is a lot of emphasis right now of creators talking about thumbnails, but it's also thumbnail, title, idea, all in combination. It's the whole packaging. But where do thumbnails fit in that whole experience?
Yeah, I think a lot of people like to compare thumbnails to the movie poster of a movie, and I don't think that's a fair comparison. It's something that is really setting the tone and setting the expectation of what's to come in the video. So it's really all about psychology and setting the tone of what's to come in the video.
Yeah, so it's not so much about having like the most perfect thumbnail ever. It's more about how does that interact with the title idea that you've created, and what does that do for the viewer? What are the things that the biggest creators are doing with their thumbnails that the smaller creators are not?
Their initial idea is perfect from the start. Before they even begin shooting the video, they already have the title and thumbnail in mind. And honestly, I know we're here to talk about thumbnails, but the title, I think, is one of the most crucial parts that people even overlook, even when they're learning about thumbnails. If the title isn't captivating, but the thumbnail is really good, that might not be enough to get the click. It really has to be one and the other working harmoniously together to get that click.
The thumbnail basically just verifies that title. So it really comes down to the whole packaging of title, thumbnail, idea. And I think one of the biggest things that creators miss, I guess this will be the next mistake, and that is not thinking about the title, thumbnail, and idea up front and like trying to come up with your thumbnail after the video's made. And then this is just kind of an afterthought. And I know just in the camera niche, in the filmmaking niche, I see a lot of creators doing this where it's just kind of like, oh, I need a thumbnail for this video. I talked about this new product, so I'll just put the camera, with my face showing it, versus like looking at what actually is working and coming up with that thumbnail title strategy before actually making the video.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just speak for myself too. I do have a second channel. This was a small little channel that I kind of goof off on. And I did have a video that went viral recently. It's called Forget SSDs, iPhone 15 Pro records to SD cards, ? And in this video, it's sitting at almost 500,000 views now. It's definitely died down, and it was blowing up during the iPhone craze, but I got more views than most creators in our niche that have much more subscribers talking about the iPhone, because I found an interesting idea and concept that other people did talk about in their videos, but I packaged the whole video around that one centralized idea. And that came about from me taking what Max taught me working with him with his thumbnails and applying it to my own work. And I actually went out and did shoot the thumbnail before I even filmed the video. And in this particular video, the thumbnail turns into motion. It actually turns into the intro of the video, which of course it's an outlier for me personally, but it did work. I found an idea that was interesting and it got that click, even within the tech and camera review niche or other niches that you wouldn't traditionally think need really good thumbnails. It's really all about that idea. And then the thumbnail serves that idea.
And if you haven't heard that term outlier video before, basically an outlier video is one video that gets more views, more attention than the other videos around the same time period that you uploaded. And when you look at like the 5 videos before and after that video, they're all kind of at a similar average. So when you're doing research for other channels and you're looking at thumbnails and titles and ideas that work, one of the strategies is to look for these outlier videos. There's definitely been instances, especially on my channel, where I found an outlier video in like another niche, and then I've tested that again and again, and all of them have performed. So whatever that title thumbnail idea combo was, it works again and again, and they all end up becoming big videos.
Yeah, I think Mr. Beast has been shown to do this a lot. He finds outlier videos and he's like, there's something to the psychology of this. Let's just redo this and obviously Mr. Beastify it. Just be inspired by things like that and see how you can kind of twist and turn those concepts and fit it into whatever niche you're in.
I'm going to pause the video right here because I have a free course that I want to tell you about that's going to go through the entire process of how to grow your YouTube channel and also how to make videos here on the platform. And you can access it down below in the description. Now, for this course, I've combined a bunch of different content from the Creator Film School, which is my online platform that teaches you how to be a creator. And I go through everything from shooting, editing, to storytelling, to how to grow a YouTube channel, and most importantly, how to monetize your YouTube channel. And I've put everything that I've learned in the process of growing my channel to over 1 million subscribers. So to access this free masterclass, I'll put a link down below in the description and also include a link to my LUTs, which is how I color grade all of my footage. I've created a set of creative color grades that work with any camera and will take your footage from a standard look to something that has more of a unique look and feel. And if you're someone that works with log profiles, well, I've made a set of conversion LUTs and quick grades that specifically work for S-Log 3, DJI drone footage, Pocket 3 footage, and Apple ProRes footage. And these quick grades are specifically made for when you're shooting with a log profile. You'll put one of these on and you have an instant color grade so that you could spend less time dealing with your color grade and put more time into actually crafting an interesting video that your viewers are going to want to watch. So if you want more information about all the LUTs that I have available, I'll include that in the description as well. All right, let's jump back into the video. So another mistake that creators often make is bad photography. And this is one of those things where sometimes thumbnails will look bad, but also you do that with intention. Like you were saying earlier, if the thumbnail was created with this bad photography, it's done with intention. So can you speak to like the assets that you use to make your videos and why it's important to have better photography for these thumbnails?
Absolutely. I think Hayden Hillier-Smith talked about this, and it's almost like the quality that's acceptable on YouTube is slowly going up with time as the phones get better with the cameras, with, you know, more access to better and better cameras like DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. The barometer for what's acceptable is going up and up year over year. So we are seeing higher quality thumbnails now more than ever. But what I'm finding is working best right now for me is having assets that essentially mimic or imitate whatever the first 5 seconds of your video are. So if you're using a telephoto lens in your first opening shot, let's make that thumbnail with a telephoto lens as well. If we're shooting a super wide angle lens at the intro with like some sort of motorcycle going up a hill, like let's match that with the thumbnail as well. Like it's all about kind of setting the expectation with the thumbnail and immediately confirming it with your intro. Basically just tell the truth to your audience. You want your thumbnail to truthfully convey what they're going to see in the video.
And so I guess this would be the next mistake, which is clickbait. And we've talked about this back and forth a little bit, and that is having a thumbnail that confirms what's actually in the video and that ties into the video so that when you go from thumbnail right into the video, it feels seamless versus having this crazy, wild Mr. Beast thumbnail. And then you get into the video and it's someone just on a GoPro like, hey, I'm here in Thailand and we're walking around and checking out the views. Like there's like such a disconnect there.
If you're just doing like a walk around Thailand vlog, that's where like you kind of just have to find the right idea that works with a title and then just tell the truth with the thumbnail. Like we don't have to have the YouTube face and like over smooth the footage, your skin look like plastic, like how Mr. Beast does.
And this brings us to another mistake, which is making your thumbnails in a vacuum, or like not looking at the other creators that are making thumbnails in this niche. And this is something that I've found personally, is that I'll look at the camera niche and when a new product comes out, and then all of the videos, especially in the drone niche, will have text all over the screen. Like it'll just be full of text, lots going on. And so I just put the thumbnail of the drone in the sky by itself, nothing else around it. So when you look at it in the search and suggested, this one thumbnail pops out against all the rest.
And again, that's why the title is so important. I think when we talk about thumbnails, we have to consider the title in addition to thumbnails, because without the title, people would have no context of what drone they're looking at, because all the DJI drones look the same pretty much. So because you have the title, you don't have to clutter up your image with text. And I will say, in regards to text, the text really, I think right now there's a bit of a trend to get rid of all text. But if you are going to add it, I would always keep in mind to like add something that adds to the title. Curtis Connor, I feel like his text goes well with his titles. He has a silly title and then like a quote from his video that's like one of the thumbnails I did for him. It's titled, "I took a vision healing masterclass." And then the quote from the lady who like says that you can be healed, your sight can be healed by taking her class. It says, "Glasses are evil." So it's like, it's a silly quote from the person that's in the video that's kind of like, what are you talking about? You know, glasses are evil. But then that juxtaposed to the title, it creates a loop in your mind that makes you want to click on it.
So the mistake here would be adding too much text and also adding text that is the same as your title.
Yes.
And something that doesn't just build on the title.
Yeah, don't repeat the title. I mean, for example, like it might be even be a little tempting to be like, the new Fujifilm X100 just came out, you know, that whatever they're going to call it, X100 Mark VI. And then you might be tempted to put X100 6 on the thumbnail as well. Don't do that. Like put a quote that says good enough or worth the wait, you know, something like that, that adds to the title, because you simply don't need the same text to be visible twice.
So let's jump into a different mistake. Let's talk more about actually making these thumbnails. So one of the things that I'll notice when a thumbnail just doesn't work is when everything blends on the thumbnail and also just the elements are too dark.
Yeah, so thankfully with Adobe Photoshop, which is the tool I use and the tool that I would highly recommend everybody who's serious use, nobody in the industry has the AI tools that we're now seeing in Photoshop at the scale and at the level that they're advancing. One of my favorites is Select Subject, and it uses AI to select whatever the subject is. So often with thumbnail, I'm pulling out a person who's in the frame. So obviously one of the best ways to make them pop is to select them and create a new layer with just them selected, and then either darken the background or add like a slight blur to the background. That could be good. And understanding color theory, I think, is one of the most crucial things that I've just learned over the years. I actually went to school for art and graphic design, so I understand the color wheel. And so knowing those contrasting colors, like the opposite of blue is orange, the opposite of red is green, those types of things, having opposites going against each other makes things pop. So that's why you see a lot of the time, you'll see yellow text, white text. Knowing what colors contrast against each other and then kind of having a basic understanding of composition too is really crucial. I use a rule of thirds grid, and I try to make sure to line up everything with that grid so that it's not only pleasing when you look at it, but also centered properly, so that when the little playhead is in the center, when somebody shares it, that's not covering anything important. And it's also important to know that that time code is always going to be at the bottom right. I would recommend putting your most important text either on the top right or the bottom left, and then don't ever put anything on the bottom right.
Pull your subject out, put them in a third, find a background, make it nice, make it so it's not busy in the background. You know, one of the mistakes is making things way too complicated and there's just too much going on. Small amount of things happening in the frame, even if it feels like there's a lot going on, you still want to have like the rule of three is what I typically use.
Absolutely.
It's either one item, like a camera, and that's it, or it's three items going on, like a text, a face, and an item. And that's kind of the way that I approach thumbnails.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd say 3, sometimes 4, but no more than 4 ever. Like, and that does mean that I will often take an image and use what's called generative fill in Photoshop to select objects and essentially remove them completely from the scene. So if there's like some weird lights in the background or just some random objects, just clean everything up. Like if there's a bunch of junk on a table, clean it up. Oh man, it would be really cool if there was some smoke coming off of this. Select that area, say add smoke, boom. And it doesn't just like stick it in like it's a PNG or like a clip art. It uses AI to figure out what lens you're using, what the exposure, like the dynamic range of that camera is. and it matches everything so perfectly.
So one more mistake that creators are making is not having a consistent brand across all of their thumbnails. And so one of the things you have to think about when you're looking at the big channels out there, the Mr. Beast, the Yes Theories, or any of these other channels that have a huge following, you'll start noticing that there is consistency for their brand. And so when their video pops up in the feed, you know who it is and you're going to click on it. So there's just more of this like confirmation that this is a video that you're going to want to watch because you already know this creator. You've already watched a ton of content from them. When you actually see that thumbnail, it's not just a random creator. And so I think one thing that creators need to think about is creating some sort of consistency, whether it's putting your face in there or it's the way that you do your photography or it's the way that you have your text. Like there's so many different elements that you could make more consistent, even though each thumbnail is unique.
And to add on to that, that doesn't mean add a little bug of your logo on the bottom left or like a giant border that's like consistent. Like that clutters up the thumbnail and adds another element to it. When we were just talking about how we just try to keep it down to like 3 elements, I would strongly advise against adding a big old chunky logo on every thumbnail and think more about font choice. Your face, if you're a solo creator, using your face really is truly its own branding. So just finding things that are unique to you and make your thumbnails look cohesive. I think Jeven is a great example of that. When you look at his thumbnails, he has a lot of blue skies and simple, clean images. So as soon as you see that, you know, oh, there's the Jeven one, the blue sky.
I mean, another creator in the filmmaking niche is a DSLR video shooter. All of his are yellow background, and it's even more consistent than my channel, where every thumbnail is the same background, and it works super well. So if you had to boil all this down, this was a pretty long conversation. What is the one thing that creators could take away from this that's going to help them craft videos that are actually going to get clicked when a viewer sees their thumbnail?
Absolutely. I mean, we already talked about it, but the most important thing is the idea. I heard it said, like, if there was a beautiful restaurant from the outside and you were walking down the street and it just was like this gorgeous, you know, maybe like a French inspired themed restaurant, you're like, oh man, that looks fantastic, I'm going to go in there. But then as soon as you step foot in it, it just looks all dirty. There's like crap everywhere. The food is like stinky, and you know, the chef is in the back, like scratching his belly. You're going to like run for the hills. You are not going to go into that restaurant. But if it's the other way around, you're walking down the street. How many of you guys have done this? You see a hole in the wall. Maybe you heard about it, or maybe you're just willing to take a risk. And then it turns out to be like one of the best little hole in the wall restaurants you've ever found. The food is amazing. The ambiance might not be perfect, but the food and the chef who made that food is so good that it surpasses the quality of the first impression. So I think this can be applied to thumbnails. If you have the best looking thumbnail, but the idea is bad, it's going to be like that bad restaurant. But even if the thumbnail isn't like mind-blowingly crazy, you don't have to like stress out about, you know, the thumbnail and spend 20 hours on it. But as long as you're telling the truth and you have a great idea and a great concept, people are going to watch the video, which is ultimately the goal. The goal isn't just to get clicks. The goal is to have them click on it and then watch the entire video.
Thanks, David, for coming on and giving us some information about thumbnails. David has a YouTube channel where he teaches thumbnail design, where you can hire him to make some thumbnails for you. Now, next, you should check out this video right here, which is a wild one. It's 7 hours of information on how to grow your YouTube channel. So make sure you head over here and check out the video. I'll see you right there.